Welcome to Crafty Little Beach. This is Julie. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you.
And I picked up one of these garden signs from the Dollar Tree, a spring sign that says welcome, has a honeybee on there, and two of their wood shelves from the Dollar Tree, and one of the burlap rolls with the honeycomb on there. I think that's so cute. I love all of the bee themed burlaps. They're so fun to craft bee DIYs with. Now, for the sign itself, I'm going to make it with two of these shelves. I think it's going to be the perfect size. And I love crafting with these from the Dollar Tree. They're the little hanging wall shelves because they're nice and thick. They don't bow very easily. And they're made out of real wood, so you can stain them and stuff if you want to. I'm going to be covering this one with burlap to give us a fun background. To attach it, they're thick enough to be able to just glue them together. So I just do a bead of hot glue and push the two signs together, and it's sturdier than you might think. I don't really have to reinforce it or anything like that. And I thought that would be the perfect size for that little welcome bee sign. Now, to cover it with burlap, this is the burlap from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to unroll it. The only thing I don't like about how they package it is that it's really wrinkled, right? So to work with it a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and just iron it with my Cricut Easy Press here. I don't get all of the wrinkles out of it, but I get enough of it out of it. It makes it easier to work with. And this is a pretty large sign, so I'm going to be using most of this burlap to cover it. So that looks better. I'm also going to cut out a piece that's a little bit larger than what I need, and then I can kind of cut it down to size. I want to line up the honeycombs the best that I can, so I could kind of see through it, where I could kind of line up what would be like horizontal or even lining them up and down. And then I'm going to cover the entire board with Mod Podge, and you're going to need more than you think with this. I did like 2 or 3 coats. I wanted to make sure that I could attach the burlap to it without having to add any Mod Podge on top. You can usually tell that it has glue on it, so I wanted that not to be very visible. And I tried to line it up the best that I can and smooth it out with just a paper towel to make it have contact with all of the glue and get rid of any like bubbling or anything like that. I used my heat gun to dry it, and now we can cut this down to size. I'm just going to use some sharp scissors and try to get as close to the wood as I can. I don't want you to be able to see any of the wood sign, but I also don't want it to have any raveling or anything like that like burlap does. Usually just having the Mod Podge there around the edge is enough to seal that and prevent that from raveling out. But I'm just going to go around and cut it all the way around. I think this is going to be a really fun background for that little bee sign. Now, this does have holes already in it that you can use for a hanger, and I think I'll do that just so I won't have to add a hanger to the back. I'm just making sure all the corners are glued down and I don't have any raveling on the sides. And then I go in and just kind of find out where the holes are on the sign and just poke them in there. I like to use the little Cricut weeder from Dollar Tree to poke some holes in there so I can then add some twine to make a hanger. I'm using kind of the thicker twine for this, so it's a little bit challenging to get it through those holes sometimes. What I do is usually put a little hot glue here on the tip, and it keeps it from fraying. It makes it a little bit sturdier to be able to hold up to going through that little wood hole there, and then I tie it on the front. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side. I wanted to go ahead and do the hanger before I start adding stuff to it. And again, I'm going to burn off the fuzzies on this because it was a little wild looking. And definitely add some hot glue on the tip of this one too. And if you do kind of get it in there and it does start getting stuck a little bit like this one did, a pair of pliers can work to help pull that through without causing any damage. And I just knot it here on the front. Now it's time to add our little bee sign to this. I think the honeycomb is a nice subtle backdrop for it. This is a hanging sign, and so I'm just going to cut off the twine hanger on here, and I'll actually use those holes to attach it to the wood sign. It's a nice sturdy sign, so I can use some tacks to tack it down. I'm using the little velvet push pins from Dollar Tree, and the board is pretty hard, so I'm going to have to use a hammer to put this in here. When I start to hammer mine in, I did notice that this one, the velvet part, like broke off. But then I kind of liked it like that. Like it is a really fun brass color. And so I was like, I'll just kind of go with that and I'll break my other one on purpose too. So just making sure it is level. I hammer this one in and break off the little velvet top on it. The last step I want to do is frame it, and I'm going to do that with some of the Dollar Tree brown rope. It's going to just kind of tie everything in together, and I just love using rope for bee crafting. So I'm going to start actually on the corner. Sometimes I don't because it can get a little tricky to round that corner if you're going to use one piece of rope all the way around like I did. But this one actually seemed to work pretty well. So I do a bead of hot glue here on the bottom, and I overlap the end just a little bit with my rope. And I'm just going to continue that all the way around. You could cut 4 individual pieces, but then you're going to have to deal with the fraying rope on all 4 corners. And I think it looks a little cleaner when you have the rounded edges like this. For the top, I just make sure that my hanger is kind of tucked underneath my sign so it doesn't get caught in my hot glue. And I just go all the way around. Here at the end, I'm just going to use some hot glue to blend that last corner to make it look rounded as well. And it actually worked out pretty well. I think I did a good job of cutting like the perfect length there, just using a little hot glue and blending that together. Super cute, a welcome sign. This would look great next to your front door or even on your door for spring or summer. Really a fun design, and it's painted so well for a Dollar Tree sign. I'm just burning off any fuzzies on that rope, and this is how it turned out, our little welcome bee sign. As you can see, that sign is really beautiful, and I love using the burlaps. They also have like the burlaps with like the black, all black bee on there, and then they have the burlaps with the black and yellow bees on there. I thought about using one of those, but I really like the simplicity of just the honeycomb since I already have a big bee there on the sign.